I was in the Marine Corps back in the 90s. I fought for this country. I signed the dotted line. It was for freedom. I would be up here today saying, don't tell that person they can't wear a mask. I'm saying the same thing, saying don't tell them they have to. This is a country of freedom and not tyranny. End the tyranny.
My name is Corrine LaGreen. I am a resident of the state of Dubuque. You know, I've really struggled with this. I don't have any children in the school district, but I am a product of the school district. And, you know, I've been looking over the numbers, and they're very disturbing. Looking at your enrollment rate and then looking at the positive, you know, COVID test rate across the city here. You know, you have 6 elementary schools that have 0 cases. You have 4 elementary schools that have 1 case each. You have 3 elementary schools with 2 cases. You have 6 cases total in Jefferson, Roosevelt, and across Washington. And you have 3 cases with only 1 here at Hempstead. 3 total across the high schools. So I'm really curious, you guys, what's the end game here? You know, the public schools alone are the ones that have been retasked with this TRO, and for you guys to make the decision to remask these children, all the while the private schools themselves have not been tasked with this. So what makes our public school children different than the private school children? Does COVID only exist here, or does it exist there as well? I mean, these are legitimate, real-world questions. Again, because I'm a kind of a data person, I'm healthcare IT, no clue what I'm doing there. You know, there's been 6,401 deaths just pulled from the Iowa COVID dashboard today. And out of that, the age range of 0 to 17 years of age, which is the age group we are primarily worried about, there is a 0% death rate in the children. 0%. Okay? At what point is the end game? Where do we shut this down and decide that this really is a freedom issue, this is a money issue, that this is a political issue? We are using these children as a tool for whatever the purpose. They want to lock us down, the NWO, whatever you want to put on it. Stats don't lie, you guys. They don't lie. Now, lastly, I am wearing a shirt that you probably can't read from there. Freedom is never more than 1 generation away from extinction, and I am here to stop that extinction. Thank you.
Did you hear what Biden said? He said that the Constitution empowers him with the authority to force you to take a needle in the arm against your will. He said that he has power over you, over your body, over your choices as president. That the Constitution empowers him to make those choices for you. I disagree. And I know our founding fathers would disagree too. How do I know? Because they rose up against the most powerful nation and powerful king on the face of the earth in the 1770s because the guy wanted to raise taxes. I can only imagine what they would have done if the king had threatened their body autonomy. What do you think they would have done? Well, whatever it is you think they would have done, we need to do. When the government says they have control over every aspect of your life, they're no longer a government official. They are a tyrant. They are a dictator. It's time we end this bullshit. What do you think, America? Do you think it's time?
Does it sound like a university that cares about their students? What MSU is doing to Julie and thousands of other kids is total hypocrisy. Yes. And I will not stand for that. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. What MSU doing is a violation of our human rights. Amen. That were declared in 1949 that every single UN nation adopted.
On September 7th, 2021, approximately at 8:30 a.m., our students of Manchester High School Junior High walked into their school unmasked, unrestricted, against these unconstitutional, tyrannical mandates that are operating under a theory of law. The world saw our kids stand up. I'm working with PJ. He's with MSU. We need you at these rallies, November 13th and November 20th.
Yeah, my name is PJ Cerati, and I'm a student at Michigan State University. I'm in my senior year, and I was supposed to graduate this year, but due to these tyrannical mandates, due to these enforced vaccine trials, I was unable to do that because I wanted to remain bodily autonomous, and I didn't want to give in to what the authority was telling me to do. So what I'm doing is working with Stand Up Michigan, Ron Armstrong and Tammy Clark, as well as Turning Point USA and 20 to 30 other grassroots organizations from across the state of Michigan to bring the community, students, frontline workers, and many other people from walks of life to the Capitol steps on November 20th. That's a Saturday from 2:30 to 5:30. Be there, fight for us, rally for us, and stand by our side.
The biggest threat we face right now across Michigan and the United States is the radical left's vaccine mandates and vaccine passports. We must put a stop to this right now. I'm inviting you to come join us, stand with us on November 13th at 10:30 a.m. at Manchester High School. I'm also inviting you to join us at the steps of the Capitol building on November 20th at 2:30 p.m. Come and join us, stand with thousands of college students, thousands of parents against vaccine mandates, against vaccine passports. It's up to you and I to stop this right now. Plan to be there.
This is a time to rally and have your voice heard. Because if there's a boot on your neck from the government, doesn't matter if it's a right boot or a left boot. It's inconsequential. We need your voice to be heard. It's time to stop this medical tyranny. Your voice is important. Come and rally with us November 13th and November 20th. I know you're going to be there. It's going to be awesome.
If you don't want to go in, you don't have to.
What if they do?
I'm not going to force anybody. I'm not putting masks on anybody. That's not my job. The order.
So they can go in without the mask.
This is a county health department order.
Okay.
And a policy of the school.
Right.
That if anybody that's going to go in, they got to have a mask on.
There is no policy.
I'm not arguing.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
they can go in, guys. They can go in. They can go in. Go on in, guys. Go in. Well, they can't enforce it.
I said that they have to have a mask.
Yeah, you guys, they can't touch you. Just go ahead and go in.
They can't touch us! Go in!
They cannot touch you.
Go in! They can't touch us! They actually blocked it. I know!
They can't touch you guys.
Not a law! It's a mandate!
No pushing.
You cannot touch students! Oh yeah! Drink a bottle of water! Eat
They cannot touch you, you guys. There you go. Yeah. They cannot touch you. Be orderly. Be kind. Be kind and respectful.
I don't want him in a classroom full of delusionary teachers that think that my child owes them his breath. Neither any of you. There's one down there that has a mask on. Look around us. I'm not even going to address you anymore because we are not going to comply. I'm going to ask you guys, are we going to comply? No! We've had enough. No! That's it. That's it. Period. We will not comply, and there's nothing that any of you can do about it. You're not doctors. You're not lawyers. You're nobody that should be giving medical advice to anybody. So keep it to yourself. But I'm telling you this, my child, who is medically exempt from a mask, actually has a disability. You can smile all you want. Who cares? A disability, all you want. But this kid he cannot wear a mask. So you're telling me that the kids who have to wear a mask, like the people sitting in the first couple rows are back behind me, are more important than my child? I don't think so. Because I'm telling you, I'm waiting for one of you to step out of line, and I'm going to see an attorney. Everybody, we can file a restraining order against these people. We can file an injunction against these people. You got to stop. You see Stan down there? Get him out. Ask for him to resign. Every member on here, ask for them to resign. I have had enough.
It says right on the N95 mask container that it will not prevent the spread of diseases. Okay? No mask will. There is no data, no real data, no honest data that will actually tell you or prove to you that masks work. You know why? Because masks cannot seal to your face. And the fibers of the mask, if you look under a microscope compared to the virus, those fibers are bigger than the microorganisms of that virus. Viruses will pass through the mask. And I know for a fact, being a two-time military vet in 2 different branches of the military under 3 different presidents, and also training for nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare, that the only mask that could prevent such a virus is the actual military-grade MOP mask that we had to wear, which keeps chemicals in and out and viruses in and out only because it seals to your face that you have to seal. Now, you aren't going to be putting kids in military-grade masks, are you? You're not going to put them in any mask. You know why? We still do have freedom. That's what this country was built on, and that's what I took an oath to defend when I took an oath to defend the Constitution. If I'm not worried about my child, why should anybody else? You want to have your child wear a mask? That should be an option in this country, because that's what this country was built on, was options and freedom. And so you send your kid to school with a mask, I'll send my kid to school without a mask. And that's the kind of freedom we should have. If you're afraid, hey, keep them at home. If I was afraid, I'd keep my kid at home. Some are homeschooling. But you know what? We should always have that option, especially in this country that was supposed to be land of the free, if I do recall.
Residents of Peoria, and up until March, our children were PUSD students. However, we were forced to make the difficult decision to pull our kids from this public school system. We also decided to take a stand against the violation of our parental rights by filing a statement of allegations complaint earlier this week with the Arizona State Board of Education for unprofessional conduct.
At the October 4th school board meeting, behavior by some of the members of public in attendance was unacceptable. As a result, and effective tonight, the school board will enforce the following guidelines. Open forum participants are prohibited from calling out or addressing any individual school board or school district staff member. If this occurs, open forum will be closed and the individual will not be allowed to participate in future open forums. Crowd noise or any sort of grandstanding during open forum, including applause, talking, hollering, or any outbursts will result in open forum being closed. Each speaker is asked to state his or her name and address for the record. Failure to do so will result in an individual not being allowed to speak.
All right, since I only have 3 minutes and I can't...
John, can you give us your name and address, please?
My name is John Wickland. I live in Mankato.
Could I get your address, please, John?
I'd rather not, since you guys
Don't
have
give
it
your
already.
address, you can't speak.
And I get so much property damage and eggs and everything else from fun people and their friends.
John,
happening to be on
you
the
need
school
to
board.
give your address.
All right, I live on 5th Street.
Excuse me?
I live on 5th Street.
House number?
North 5th Street.
North 5th Street, thank you.
All right.
They sold out our kids' education, health, and freedom to get funding. Their funding comes with an agenda. These people don't even have control. When you put politicians and bureaucrats in charge of education and health, it's no longer about education and health. It's about control. It's about funding. It's about money. What are y'all willing to do for money? I would like an audit done on our election in Blue Earth and Nicollet counties that include the school board. I want to know if we, the people, elected these fools pushing a socialist agenda. have some sellouts that don't realize we live in America, the land of the free, a country where elected officials work for we the people. Well, it's time we the people take back control. Ditch this tyranny. Demand our freedoms and screw these people. Look at them. They are weak, all masked up like fools. Do they look powerful to you? Not to me.
So you know I'm full of fun information and facts.
Can you give your address quick?
Oh,
sorry.
I live in Mankato downtown here on 5th Street. You already have my address. Kenneth, thanks. Anyway, what classes do you teach the Constitution? And when? What classes do you teach the Bill of Rights? And when? How about the Civil Rights Act? And not just what the 1619 Project sends you to read, but actually the documents. Aren't we in America? I know a lot of you are not proud of being in America. I don't know why you're still here, but you still want to use control. But that's America.
It is an abuse of power to demand, with threat of losing your jobs, our personal health information and our healthcare decisions. We have the God-given authority over what goes into our bodies and who has access to what comes out of our bodies.
We do not feel comfortable turning in our personal medical samples, which include our DNA, to the school district, which is not even a medical facility. The school district is not trained or equipped to properly handle personal specimens.
This is a problem that all of us think we know something about, but nobody really does. So I ask you to serve us.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson.
Regardless of what people say, ain't nobody finna make me do anything. Because I'm at the end of the day, all I have was me, and as long as I'm living, we all gotta die one day, but I know everything is not promised, but God sees us, He protecting us, so what is another man or a woman telling us to do? There's something to think about.
Cleo Atkins. If you didn't clap so long, you'd hear it. Cleo Atkins.
Mr. Hogan, when you went over those slides really quickly, one of them you said, this proves our mitigation efforts are working. I taught 7th and 8th grade science for many years. Did you compare that to a test school that didn't have those mitigation efforts in them? I'll wait.
We don't respond.
I'll take that as a no. Better go back to 7th and 8th grade science, because you have to have a test group to compare to see if it's doing anything. On another chart that you went through, it showed 27 infections out of 10,000. That's 0.27%. What's your target number when this mitigation efforts will stop?
Mr. Leanhouse, we will not respond during open forum.
My name is Hattie Topping, and I am 8 years old. I am a citizen of Dubuque. I go to Holy Family, but I am here in support of my friends that deserve the right to choose whether or not to wear a mask. Why are people going to be forced to wear a mask? People should be able to choose if they want to. So I would like all 9 of you to tell us why students should be required to wear a mask with these very low numbers that everyone is given. They are not just a piece of cloth on our face. They're uncomfortable, they're distracting, and we love seeing our friends' faces. I made this mask for today, and this is what it says. Let them breathe. Faith over fear, God saves us, we all matter. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
I paid tens of thousands of dollars out of my property taxes that I own here in town. Those parts that go to the school district, they can be taken away. I wish we could just vote a law to say that we can put this money to the schools we want it to go to. Parents pay for parochial schools, parents pay for private schools. When it comes down to the final straw, the only thing I haven't heard here today is the word control. And that's what this comes down to. It's bean counters and control. You people on this board don't get paid. I don't envy you. I've been on boards myself before. It's a difficult job sometimes to pick between this side and that side. I voted this way and I voted that way. I'm not going to be decided upon which side of the aisle I stand on. I stand on the side of the aisle that's freedom for people. And there are horrible things being done in this country in the name of it's my body and I can do with it what I want. I won't go into that, but this is my body and I can do what I want. It's not your decision to tell me what I can do. It's your decision to give me information to let me make that decision for myself.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Kennecker. I'm a grandparent and also the mayor of Sageville. We all encounter risk, and the lawyers have pointed out to us recently the risks that are associated with the mask mandate. I'm opposed to the mask mandate. The reason, as far as lawyers are concerned, we can all be sued as individuals, as groups, for almost anything we do. But bottom line is, we don't change our food policies. I don't believe that peanut products have been completely removed from the school board's meal systems, meal programs, and I don't believe they should. We don't mask for flu. We've heard that before many times tonight. And it's just a basic situation of choice. It's no different than the parents' choice that send their kids to school where peanut products are being sold, or flu season. It just needs to remain choice for all those reasons. Don't be frightened by a lawyer's opinion. We respect lawyers, but again, it's more important that the parents have the right to choose whether their kids wear masks or not. Thank you.
There's a big difference, and I think this is why we're confused and angry and upset. There's a big difference in national global authorities' recommendations. It's with messaging and research delivery. So the CDC says if you're 2 or older, mask up, that's it, no nuance, no exceptions. And the WHO says if you're under 5, masks are not recommended. Between 6 and 11, it depends on the child if they can manage it appropriately and with adult supervision. And the WHO says that children with developmental disorders or disabilities should not be mandated and should be assessed on a case-by-case basis. So just for the sake of clarity, let's suspend judgment about CDC and WHO and just assume that they are the only 2 recommendations we must choose from. Who's right, because they can't both be correct at the same time. So I'm just wanting us to lean into the nuance a little bit of all this. And if early childhood centers, say in Dubuque, are taking their cues from the US CDC, this has real implications. The glaring difference is in that early age group, between ages 2 and 5, the CDC says yes, absolutely, and the WHO says don't. And there's a growing body of input from developmental experts speaking out about significant negative ramifications of masking this demographic of youth in such tender developmental stages.
I'm coming to represent my kids and my choice as a parent. I think that the health choices should be left up to me and to all of the rest of the parents here. But I'm also going to come, so I was told by a friend tonight I'm not going to come because the board's already made up their mind. It was pretty clear from their email, but I'm not going to give up on my kids. And I'm here and I'm going to speak for them, but I'm going to come from a liability perspective. So you guys in that email basically blamed it on the ADA, and we have to do this because of the ADA. And let's look at it from the opposite end of the spectrum. I just looked up OSHA guidance. So if you mandate a mask in a workplace, OSHA comes in and they train employees on how to properly wear a mask. And it talks about if you wear a mask and it's too loose or it's too tight, you could be asphyxiated. You could have obstructed vision. It could get caught or entangled in something. But here's what really stuck out to me. There's a disease vector associated with the mask. Respiratory hazards, face masks may accumulate COVID-19 particles and the virus and other pathogens. And if they become wet with saliva or sweat, face masks may become a growth environment for bacteria and other pathogens. Face masks can further accumulate nuance, dust, silica, and other respirable health hazards that exist in the workplace. And I ask you, if you force this mandate on my kid's face, and my kid gets a staph infection, aren't you guys opening yourselves up to a huge liability issue? Just like the parent who now has a lawsuit in Iowa, in the Des Moines area, because of her daughter's staph infection on her face. So if you guys are worried about a liability issue from one side of the token, you need to look at the other. And you could be improperly exposing them to COVID by forcing them to wear a mask on their face. So I stand for my kids, and I stand for choice, and I stand for their own bodily autonomy. And I am their parent, and I am here to represent them. And I won't give up.
Two things. So my kid has asthma, and since we did this mask mandate stuff prior, he's gone through 4 times the amount of inhalers that he used to have.
Up today, I'm a homeschool mom. I pulled my kids out with COVID. I chose to pull my kids out just temporary. It was just going to be temporary because, man, I tell you what, homeschooling is a hard job. But as time went on and I realized that you guys don't want the parents to have our rights anymore, I decided my kids will permanently be homeschooled through high school on to college. However, my kids are the only ones that pulled money out of your pockets. Each child that you guys have in these schools is worth money to you, to the school district. And I've had over 100 people, 100 different households come to me asking, how do you go about homeschooling your children? If we pull all these kids that these parents are talking about pulling, that's money out of the school. That's out of the school district. And secondly, I know how politics works, and I know that money runs everything. I've learned that on my adventure, that it's all about the money. If I were any of the parents that are against the mask mandate, I would test the basic skills is coming up. Keep your kids out of school for that week because they will lose that money as well, because those tests brings in the funds and it brings in the grants. Keep your kids out of school that week.
Hi, my name's Andy DeWitt. I'm a parent. We've heard a lot about a lot of things. I just like to reiterate a few of them. I can bring up a lot of numbers, but basically when you look at the numbers, more children have died from the flu in 2018 to 2019 than died from COVID in the last 12 months. In 2018 or 2019, was anybody saying mask the children? No, because that would be silly. We wouldn't want to mask the children for such a very, very low incidence. Granted, when there's any child who dies of any disease, it's tragic, and we want to mitigate for that. But when the risk is 0.000, I've got the numbers listed here, but it's in the 0.0008 level, that doesn't mean you do something drastic that causes harm. So what happens if you're walking down the street and you see a parent bubble wrap their child and put them on a leash and say, let's go? Well, they will have less chance of getting bumps and scrapes. But the child's not wrong. Parents are delusional, psychotic hypochondriacs. That's not good parenting. I mean, we don't want to be teaching the children that the air is toxic. Everyone around them is sick. You can't touch. You can't integrate. You can't be kids. We don't want to teach fear. We want to teach them to be children, and we want them to be great kids. You can't do that when they're afraid all the time. Please don't make masks mandated in schools.
I have 2 kids at Washington. I am a VA disabled veteran, And with your notice that you send out to parents, I have disabilities myself. And one of them is breathing. And with your so-called lawyers, attorneys, whoever you seeked approval or whatever, counsel on the Disability Act, let me tell you, they have no idea what they're talking about. I have to know my rights as and I know as I have breathing problems, I cannot wear a mask at all anywhere that I go with my problems. So by you enforcing a mask at the school, and if I have to come into that school for my children, you're violating my rights as a disabled person. And those kids, your job at the school for the American Disabilities Act is to provide a child that has a disability an easier learning. That means their IEPs to specific for their learning. So if a child has or is in a wheelchair, are you going to make the rest of the children in that school be in a wheelchair so that they are not singled out to make it easier for them to learn? No. If there's another blind child at school, are you going to make everybody else walk around with a cane so that you know how that they feel to make it easier for them to learn? No. Your job is to provide that individual student their individual needs, not to make the rest of the children in that school to learn the same way that they have to learn. That is not what the Americans with Disabilities Act is. And I have it right here. I have to know my rights as a disabled person, and you are violating those rights. So whoever told you is wrong.
Hi, my name is Rachel Griffin. I'm a mother of two. I have a daughter who's a sophomore and a son who's in 8th grade. And as a parent, I have witnessed firsthand how forcing children to wear a mask has caused depression. My children have wore their masks all last year and wore them properly, but my son was starting to feel harassed and bothered by teachers constantly telling him to pull his mask up when it slips down. Now, we all know when you talk, eat, any movement with your mouth, your mask is going to slip. And during class, when he was talking, his mask slipped down, and instead of the teacher going to him personally, he called him out in front of his class, told him to pull his mask up, and then not only that, but in front of the class, his teacher had also asked if he could sue a student for giving him COVID. Now tell me, how is that environment healthy for any child? Forcing children to wear masks is wrong. My child's health is my responsibility. You want to provide a healthy education, then let us parents have our rights to decide what is right for our children.
All right, Whitley Joel, and I'm a parent of 4 kiddos going to school currently. So a CDC study from Georgia that analyzed 90,000 elementary students from 196 different schools found, and I quote, no statistically significant difference in schools that were required to wear masks compared to the other schools where masks were optional. I do have a whole bunch of other statistics from studies, and I don't want you guys to miss out when I presented them to the Holy Family Board, so I'll email them to you later. But in the interest of time, we'll flip over here. The responses from this board in the recent weeks to parents concerned about masking their kids is laughable. The TRO is written in a way that legally ties our hands. The temporary order against a ban on mask mandates does not require you to put a mask mandate in place. In Iowa alone, North Polk School District will be recommending masks, not require them. The Waukee School Board will not reinstate their mask mandate. They're asking district administrative teams to come up with alternative strategies to accommodate those with health risks. Burlington and Central Lee schools have decided to table the decision while waiting further information from the Iowa Department of Public Health and a ruling from the court. Danville School District said they have no plans to implement a mask mandate. Fort Madison School District said masks will continue to be optional for the time being. Waco School District is waiting on final judgment before making any decisions on mask mandates. The appeals court in Florida upheld the ban on mask mandates. In Oklahoma and Texas, Mask mandates were allowed to be implemented with the caveat that parents be allowed to opt out of the requirement if they so choose. To make any decision regarding a mask mandate until the court makes a final decision is premature. Knowing what we do about COVID, we made the choice to send our children to in-person learning instead of virtual learning. We made the choice to prioritize social interaction, knowing the risks. What's best for my children is my choice, and my husband, who's right up back there, he gets to choose too, but it's not your guys' choice. I understand that there are families at greater risk than my own, and to them I make this promise. My children will not bully, belittle, or even question your child's choice to wear a mask. They'll be mindful of their personal space and pose as little risk to them as possible, but that's where their responsibility ends. My child's job is only to go to school, learn, make friends, be respectful, and develop good social skills. My children's job is not to ease anyone else's fears. My children's job is not to protect anyone else. My child's job will never to be a pawn for someone else's political agenda. To say that your hands are legally tied is a cover-your-ass answer. I fully believe that your minds are already made up and this entire meeting is just a formality. However, you should consider, thank you. You should consider the customer service rule of 10 for every individual that took their time to speak, put a butt in a seat today, or email you. There are likely 10 more that are upset, and they will discuss it with their friends. They will never bring their issues to your attention. And in this scenario, we are your customers, you are providing the service, and our version of not returning to your establishment will be in a ballot box. Thank you.
The precedent has already been set. The CDC's website states in the U.S., COVID-19 virus has a higher survival rate than the common flu virus. Yet we have never mandated the use of face masks to protect its citizens against the common flu. There is a strong evidence face masks act as a wet pathway entry to the mouth, causing bacterial infections, pneumonia, and hypochondria, even making it easier for the virus itself to enter the body. You have stated to make use of mask mandates as a reasonable accommodation for a select few. I argue this is a direct violation of my son's ability for a healthy school environment, and that a mask may quite possibly contribute to him coming to harm as a result of your decision to require face masks. You do not have the right to discriminate against my child's health. Absolutely not. If this is truly about accommodating somebody's disability, I don't see anyone stopping or limiting the others from wearing whatever protective form that they want. Why are you going to force us to wear them? They don't work. They're ineffective. We live in a free country, and this is tyranny. Please stand up for our kids' sake, for their health. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa Bilo, and I have 2 children in the Dubuque Community School District, and I'm here to plead with you not to enforce another mask mandate on our children, just as my 9-year-old from Kennedy pled with me last night not to let that happen to him. We all have choices in life. However, in the spring of 2020, our children, despite only 1 case of COVID in Dubuque, were told to stay home and not return to school. We didn't have a choice then. In August of 2020, we were told we could either send our children to school in a hybrid model or have them learn from home. Again, there was no choice for school to be full-time. Also in August of 2020, we were told our children were having to wear masks. There was no choice for us. The parents who were for mask mandates have always had choices. They could keep their kids home from school in August of 2020. They could still send their children to school in masks if they chose to in August of 2021. It's those of us who believe in freedom to choose that have never been given these options. In March of 2018, we had several schools in Dubuque with over 10% absentee rate due to just the seasonal flu. This was from KCRG, actually. What actions did we take then? We didn't take any. The kids who were sick stayed home, and the rest of them were allowed to continue to learn. So why, in September of 2021, with only 0.17% of students and staff ill with COVID right now, are we considering instituting another mask mandate? Why would we negatively impact many because of few? I can't and won't have my children exposed to fear and an expressionless education for another year. I urge you to put people over politics and faith over fear. Thank you.
God gave us all free will. You are cowering to tyranny. There are school districts around the state of Iowa that are not mandating masks. I want to stand here and fight for all of the children. I've already provided you with 65 studies showing that masks cause harm, another 25 studies that show masks are ineffective. I've already told you that I contacted the CDC and found that the CDC had no studies to prove safety or efficacy of mask wearing in children. But what I believe is right for my child may be different for yours. I want to say unmask all of the children, but instead I demand freedom to choose for my own. This federal judge's temporary restraining order on Iowa's law is an abuse of power. A few parents and the federal court are using gross misinterpretation of ADA to push forward an evil agenda. Show us the part of ADA that requires other students to wear a medical device. It doesn't require complicated thought process to turn this around and say that a mask mandate violates the civil rights of other kids with disabilities. And actually, mask mandates violate the civil liberties of all children and staff. If you plan to vote for a mask requirement for all students and staff solely on the possibility of a lawsuit, you need to resign. I ask that you vote. With all due respect, I ask that you vote to do what is right. Honor our freedom to choose. There are a lot of parents waking up to what is really going on. Our children have been through enough. Enough is enough. This puppet show goes on because of you.
I did poll my daughter at the end of last year when it was every day, all day with masks. She has migraines and you cannot mask a migraine. These are what masks do. According to the JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, stated face masks trap carbon dioxide, and the amount of carbon dioxide under the children's masks after just 3 minutes exceeded the level considered unacceptable. Children are wearing these masks for hours. The buildup of carbon dioxide can lead to impairments caused by hypercapnia, which is too much carbon dioxide in the blood, including headaches, anxiety, fatigue, and shortness of breath. This is ample evidence for adverse effects of wearing those masks. The children should not be forced to wear them. They're losing access to lip reading and nonverbal cues that are essential to healthy psychosocial development. If you read the outside of the mask box, it will say they are ineffective at protecting against the spread of COVID-19. There is no scientific evidence showing that non-professional use of the face mask is effective at preventing the spread of microscopic COVID viral particles.
I have 4 kids in the Dubuque Community School District, one of them being a 4-year-old with Down syndrome. So she is a part of the reason why I think these mask mandates are trying to be pushed. My daughter does not do well with a mask on. She does not wear one. Nor do I want her to, and nor do I want her speech therapist or her teacher or her fellow students to wear one, because intellectually she would do better without it. She can't understand you without a mask on, let alone with a mask on. It's harder for her to learn to have that mask on herself and around people around her. As far as protecting her, in her IEP, we specifically have how many times, not specific number, but how many times she has to wash her hands is a copious amount, because when she was born, a month later, she got RSV as an infant, one-month-old infant. Sorry, gosh. She has a compromised immune system naturally, let alone the RSV that affected her lungs afterwards. I don't want a mask mandate for my daughter, but I want the right to choose. And I would choose not to have it. For her education, for her to learn. I do have one statistic. I recently read about dentists, which have coined a new term called mask mouth. They are seeing inflamed gums due to mask dryness. Masks increase mouth dryness exerstoma, stomia? I have no idea how to say it. And contribute to bacteria buildup because masks cause kids to be mouth breathers. This affects saliva, and saliva fights the bacteria in your mouth. This could lead to periodontal disease, which eventually leads to strokes. Mask mouth, what causes it? 4 solutions. Anyway, sorry, I was just reading the rest of it. Anyway, mask mouth is happening too. So not only is this affecting them mentally, it is actually affecting our kids physically. I just wanted to show that there are people in the community who have kids with disabilities who still don't want them to wear masks. And I just want the right to choose. That's all I want. I just want the right to choose.
Can't watch people's, words come out of people's mouths, teachers' mouths. So I think we're doing harm to our little kids starting out. Last year, my boy came home with headaches all the time from wearing masks. He had migraine headaches all the time. This year, he wants to go to school. He wants to be part of school. Last year, he was fed up with school, and along with my other children, too. So I'm just saying that we don't need these masks. I respect the people that want to have masks on. I respect the people that want to get vaccinations. Go do it. You're not going to force that on me. And if you guys continue to do this, by the way, are you guys elected? Because if you are, we'll remember this. We'll certainly remember this. So if you're elected, I might even have one of your jobs, guaranteed. So if you guys can come up with some good answers on why, or any documentation that says masks are the way to go, which you won't be able to because it's a wash. It's lies. That's all I have to say.
This seems like a clear, loud message that we need to have choice. I believe COVID is real. I believe that families that want to wear masks should be able to, but they also should be wearing N95 masks or KN95 masks, because the minute that you touch your mask, you are supposed to take it off, wash your hands, and put on a clean mask. And people in the medical field know the proper way to put on masks. The public has not been trained to handle the mask the way that they're medically supposed to, that are supposed to protect them. And I'm just saying that God allows us to make choices, and I hope you'll do the same as far as masks.
Hi, my name is Valerie Soroka, and I'm a school bus driver and a parent. We sanitize the school buses after each route, so to make sure that if there's any kind of sickness, whether it's the cold or flu or COVID, whatever, that is taken care of. So that's like a bonus. So it is helping everybody, whether you wear a mask or not, and whether you're sick or not. I mean, if you are sick, my strongest belief is to stay home, period. That should have always been. However, because of work or whatever, people felt the need that they still had to show up and work and do anyways, even though they were sick, which is crazy, because then that spreads. And so now we're experiencing, multiple different sicknesses, and we're starting to blame each other for all of it. A thought of mine has always stuck: death is a promise. It's something that happens. It's not something that we're ready for or want to happen, but it happens. And we're clocking deaths with this stuff. For what? We're causing more fear and more anxiety when we should be living freely. Right now, have this sign for mental health, because it's this fear base that we're putting on our children is basically making their hands tied behind their back and not being able to speak for themselves or what's right for them. I'm personally not vaccinated. I only wore a mask at one position for work, which is at Swiss Colony, because I signed a contract. and there's dust. So that protects me from getting sick from whatever else comes from China. Throughout this whole pandemic, I constantly worked. I never social distanced. My daughter and I have not been sick. Not saying that we couldn't, and I'm not saying that people haven't been. I'm just saying that this fear factor that's being placed on everyone, it's incorrect. It's false. It makes that mental health worse than what it is. So I'm encouraging to do what you feel is best for you. I strongly do not want to wear a mask. I don't make my kids on the school bus wear a mask because, as we pointed out here, some people are wearing the mask underneath the nose, some people let them fall on the floor, some people are up here talking on the mic without a mask when they've been wearing a mask. Really not understanding if you're really for it, be for it. If you're not, then not. Thank you.
My name is Renee Gali. I am a parent. I have 10 kids, 7 of which have gone to Dubuque Community School. 2 are currently at senior, and 1 I homeschool till he gets to high school. I went to school here 37 years ago, graduated valedictorian. It's weird to come back and see it all changed. But I saw your mission, and it said to develop world-class learners and citizens of character in a safe and inclusive learning community. And I spoke to my children about masks. And with all that in mind, I wrote this poem. When I wear a mask, it says, please keep away. Don't be too close to me today. I keep my distance. It matters not much. Those who need a hug or a touch. When I wear a mask, I can't seem to breathe as well, and my clouded thoughts really tell. There's no world-class learning. I just find myself yearning to get out somewhere and breathe some fresh air. When I wear a mask, I cover my smile and others can't see the love for them that comes from me. My character is well hidden away. I don't feel like a good citizen that day. It's less about community, but rather more just about me. When I wear a mask, my muffled speech is not clear. I often must yell to make others hear. Suffocated and secluded, I prefer not to speak. Instead of strong, I feel socially weak. When forced to wear a mask, it's oppression I feel. I'm told what to do and just where to kneel. I'm a muzzled dog with no right to choose. I have no value. I'm robbed and abused. When forced to wear a mask, I can't sing I'm not free. My country, sweet land of liberty. When I oppose, I'm labeled uncouth, even if I speak facts or the truth. So for me, and many like-minded, consideration is due. Or will you just foster the fears of the few? Hear us all out. Take plenty of time. Don't make a decision that lacks reason and rhyme.
Jim Waldron. I'm a citizen here in Dubuque, and with graduate and postgraduate study of things like microbiology and experimental design and statistics and pathology and physiology. I've searched the research since the late 2019 on this topic, and just a few pieces here. This is from the CDC website, Emerging Infectious Diseases, and they studied non-pharmaceutical measures for pandemic influenza in non-healthcare settings, personal protective and environmental measures. In our systematic review, we identified 10 randomized controlled tests that reported estimates of effectiveness of face masks in reducing laboratory-confirmed influenza virus infections in the community from the literature published from 1946 to 2018. In pooled analysis, we found no significant reduction of influenza transmission with the use of face masks. they wanted to say. Disposable medical masks, also known as surgical masks, are loose-fitting devices that were designed to be worn by medical personnel to protect accidental contamination of patient wounds and to protect the wearer against splashes or sprays of bodily fluids. There is limited evidence for their effectiveness in preventing influenza virus transmission, either when worn by the infected person for source control or when worn by uninfected persons to reduce exposure. Our systematic review, and this is of 70 years of research, found no significant effect of face masks on transmission of laboratory-confirmed influenza. Here's an article from the the Journal of the American Medical Association, March 2020. Face masks should not be worn by healthy individuals to protect themselves from acquiring respiratory infection because there is no evidence to suggest that face masks worn by healthy individuals are effective in preventing people from becoming ill. Here's University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center. Summary of evidence. We found no validated evidence to support the use of cloth masks to protect against the spread of COVID-19. Cloth masks are not recommended for healthcare professionals, especially in high-risk situations. Moisture retention and reuse of cloth masks and poor filtration may result in an increased risk of infection. This is again from the CDC Coronavirus 2019. Available evidence shows that cloth masks may even increase the risk of infection due to moisture, liquid diffusion, retention of the virus. Penetration of particles through the cloth is reported to be high, although common fabric cloth masks are not considered protective against respiratory viruses, and their use should not be encouraged. Here's from the July 27, 2020, excerpts from the American Association of Physicians and Surgeons. Conclusion: wearing masks will not reduce SARS-CoV-2. Cloth masks will be ineffective in preventing SARS-CoV-2 transmission. I could go on for hundreds of them.